So now I'm going to transition to Iraq. And why in the world did I go there? I'm a naval officer, right? It's definitely not a Navy war. But you may remember, as when Bush did the final surge, quite frankly, the Army was spent, and they needed more officers. And they created this thing called an individual augmentee. You might even see T-shirts, IA, and yeah. Oh, you got the T-shirt, yeah. Well, thank you for your service. It was a unique experiment, and I tell you what, it worked. I have never loved the Army so much after I went through Fort Bragg and all their training and ate their food. I respect the Army, and I respect everybody who went through it. They're a tough bunch of people, and I would say in the end our force was probably 30% Navy. And the beauty was, I volunteered, okay? And to back up with that, I saw what a difference when you help people, how they become on your side. And how people in New Orleans who weren't helped got very angry, and they were disgusted by FEMA. And you start to see the reports in Iraq, and it made sense. Well, if America's so great and they've been there for years, why don't I have running water? Why are people being killed in the streets? So it made sense to volunteer, and I volunteered for an organization that the Army has called Civil Affairs. And in the end, I was chosen to lead Southern Iraq because they heard that there was some ports down there. Well, you know what was unique? They sent a Louisiana boy to Southern Iraq. And believe it or not, there's marshes there, and there's marsh Arabs. And nobody had ever really talked to them. The British hadn't gone out to them. The Iraqis hated them. But we started operations with the marsh Arabs. And we befriended them. First time we arrived with the Iraqis, they all disappeared. We went into empty villages. But that's where the Iranians were bringing in the IEDs that were killing our troops. And I sat down with them and I had meals with them because that's the Southern culture. And you know, the British were saying, you're eating with the Iraqis, they're going to poison you. Look, if we're ever invaded by any country, and the good Southerners that we are, we're not going to poison them at the dinner table, all right? If I invite an enemy to my table. An honor, and I understood that with the Arabs, there's an honor as well. And by eating with them, befriending the leaders, we started to put a soft hand in it. And I will tell you, I landed on a C-130 in Iraq, and the C-130 landed, and my force dropped, and it flew on out because the British were being hit every day in multiple hours. Well, in 4 months, you could go out without body armor. And I did that, which upset a lot of the generals who saw pictures later in Baghdad. But I did that to show the Iraqi people that we're here and we're making your place safe, and I feel it's safe. And if you feel it's safe, then you start operating as a city again, Basra, and in turn the ports and whatnot. But the key is we made a difference for the people in rebuilding their confidence so they could rebuild their own city and their own country while we were there. I know history's changed since then, but I wanted you all to hear that story, and I know Gary did, because it segues into New Orleans. And now we've changed. The city's rebuilt, and so much of the anger's gone. But you can talk to locals, and a lot of locals here in New Orleans, and I know I'm stepping back from Iraq to New Orleans. We had our 10-year anniversary, and there was a lot of press here, and a lot of people were upset by it, because it's really not an anniversary here. It's a painful time. And I was talking to Captain Lawrence. Can you imagine your whole life wiped away, every picture, right? One of the side things I did on my ship, and it was a personal thing, the looting was occurring, and I went to my house, well, my dad's house, and I got his sword, because I wasn't letting anyone steal his Navy sword, nor his medals. I was not going to let that happen. And then I went to a friend of his, also a Navy captain, and I got there too late. And they completely looted the house. I'm talking about his Navy picture shattered, his sword taken, the medals destroyed. And this was another good man that had served in Vietnam, World War II, and Korea. And I said to myself, what nation is this that we can allow those who served in every part of their property to be completely destroyed? Now, he had passed away, but his widow was returned home to that. And it made me more passionate to get out and make a difference. But that was the first 3 days in New Orleans. And it was a horrible time. And nobody really talks about it. But it was complete lawlessness. And a small ship with a small crew made a little difference. And just like you all have on your ships, and in the history that you write, I'm just proud to be both parts. I'm a Navy captain right now. I got one more year, and I'm a Merchant Marine captain. I just returned yesterday from 2 hours of firefighting. You know, what's an old guy like me learning how to firefight again? But in the Merchant Marine, you got to do it all. And I love them both. You know, I'm sure you all feel the same. I've got one more year in the Navy, and I wish I could stay. But thank God I can still stay a part of the Merchant Marine until I can't pass that physical anymore. So, anyway, thank you for having me. It's a blessing. But remember what you do, and I would say it again, our history and our naval history is so important. And I mentioned Mahan, but if people don't know it and it's lost, we're going to repeat so many of those failures that did occur. And so I thank you for that very much.